Unit 2.
You will hear a conversation between a teenager who has just come out of the London dungeon and a man who is writing a report on London's tourist attractions. Which of the following are discussed?
Hello, excuse me. My name is Alan Wells and I am writing a report on London's best tourist attractions. I see you've just come out of the London dungeon. Could I just ask you a few questions about your visit? It won't take long.
Yes, okay. Why not?
Thank you very much. First of all, a few details. How old are you?
17.
Did you go into the dungeon on your own or did you go in a group?
I went in with my brother and 2 other friends of mine. We're all here on holiday together.
Okay, great. So, had you heard about the London dungeon before this visit?
Well, my uncle told me about it and said we really should come.
How long did your visit last?
Well, we were probably in there for nearly 2 hours altogether. But when I was inside, I had no idea really. You get moved on from room to room with your group. But I never felt like I was being rushed through.
How did you enjoy your visit?
Oh, it was fantastic. It was really scary, but very funny at the same time.
Can you describe what you enjoyed most about it?
Well, I didn't really know what to expect. So when we arrived, we were a bit surprised that there was a huge queue of people waiting to get in. That was one part I didn't like.
How long did you have to wait?
It must have been about 45 minutes. But it wasn't too bad, I suppose. Other people told me that they had waited much longer. I suppose it depends on the time of year. Well, anyway, once we got in, it was just amazing. Inside it is really dark, even before you get to the ticket counter, which makes it really scary.
What did you do inside the dungeon?
Well, the whole dungeon was divided up into different rooms, and in each place there were guys dressed up in costume, just as they would have been dressed in the past. They told us a lot about the history of London and the way people lived then.
Such as?
Well, in one room they told us about the Great Plague. It was an illness which spread through London and killed lots of people. It was brought in by rats, and they even had live rats in there. Yeah. They told us about the Great Fire of London, which actually killed all the rats which had brought the illness in. So it was educational too.
And what else was there to do?
Well, there were rides and people jumping out at you, trying to scare you. And they really did scare us. We were screaming like little kids. But it was great fun too.
Would you say it is suitable for young children?
No way. They actually say at the entrance that they strongly advise against taking small children in. I think it is perfect for teenagers and adults, as long as you're not too nervous.
So, would you recommend the London dungeon to others?
Oh yes, absolutely. It was quite expensive to get in, but it was definitely worth it. It was fantastic.
Great. Well, thanks very much for your time.
My pleasure. Bye.
Bye.
You'll hear 5 different people talking about why they visited or moved to a particular place. Choose from the list A to F the statement that best describes each speaker's experience. Use the letters only once. There is one extra letter which you do not need to use. Speaker 1.
I'd always wanted to visit Australia, and when my friend Brad, who lives in Sydney, invited me to his wedding, I accepted the invitation immediately. I arrived in Sydney about a week before the wedding and spent as much time as possible taking in the sights. I really liked the Sydney Aquarium. There's a glass chamber in the aquarium that allows visitors to get a close look at some incredible sea creatures, including sharks. All in all, my holiday was wonderful and I really enjoyed Brad's wedding. My only regret is that I never got to see a kangaroo.
Speaker 2.
When I received a letter informing me that I'd been accepted into the New York Academy of Art, I was absolutely thrilled. Still, as excited as I was also a little nervous about leaving home and moving to a new place all by myself. My first day in New York was overwhelming. It's a fast-paced city and it can be quite a challenge keeping up. It took me a few months to settle in and there were times when I felt quite homesick. Now I'm thoroughly enjoying my studies and I've just had a painting in an exhibition at the college. Who knows, maybe one day you'll see my work in an art gallery. Now wouldn't that be something?
Speaker 3.
I'd been working as an archaeologist for about a year when I heard that Professor Harold Jones, a world-famous scientist, was putting together a team of experts to help him search for a lost city in Mexico. It had always been my dream to work with Professor Jones, so I immediately handed in my resignation and booked a ticket to Mexico. My plan was to convince the professor to let me be part of his team, even though I wasn't very experienced. Luckily, the professor was quite impressed with my CV and decided to give me a job. I've been in Mexico for 6 months now. It's been a wonderful learning experience for me, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity.
Speaker 4.
I'm a writer and I had been struggling to come up with a suitable ending for my latest book. So my publisher suggested that I go away for a while. I decided to rent a small cabin near Lake Winston, which is about a 2-hour drive from the town where I live. I spent most of my time at the lake swimming, fishing and admiring the glorious sunsets. The scenery was so beautiful that I took as many photos as I could. I must say, the experience definitely stimulated my creativity and, by the time I returned home, I had thought of a brilliant ending for my book. Funnily enough, when my publisher saw the photos that I had taken, he told me he wanted to include them in a book on outdoor adventures. I had no idea I was such a skilled photographer.
Speaker 5.
I've been working as an accountant for about 10 years, and I have to admit that adding and subtracting numbers all day long can get a little boring. Last summer, I decided it was time for an adventure, so I took a month off and went to stay with my cousin at his farm. I've always loved animals and was thrilled when my cousin agreed to let me help him with some of the chores. I was even allowed to milk the cows. Being so close to nature was wonderful, and there were moments during my holiday when I could clearly imagine myself giving up my job in the city and moving to the country. Maybe one day.